guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today we are taking a look at one of the most historically significant and popular watches ever made. This is the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. Now, as it says in its name, this watch was worn on the moon, and it was actually the very first watch to be worn on the moon, and the astronaut who wore it was Buzz Aldrin. So, because of that, this watch has just become one of the most popular timepieces ever, and because it was the first watch worn on the moon, it has become extremely engraved in history. So now we're going to go on the pad and take a look at this watch. Okay guys, so here's this watch down at the pad, and right off the bat I'm going to go over its very famous and well finished case. So I really like how Omega chose to do a lot of contrasting polished and brushed sides. I love the beveled edge on both of the lugs and the sides of the case. I really think that provides a nice contrast to the kind of more colder brushing and really makes this watch stand out, I'd say. It really reflects well in the light, and I really do like how they did that. I also really like how they did the bracelet here. I like how it's a brushed bracelet, kind of showing it's down to business, but then it also has on the center link polishing on the sides, which then make it look a little bit of a classier watch and a little less sporty there. So I mean, I would say you could wear this watch with a suit, basically anything you want to, and it would look good. And I really like how they did that, because personally, I mean, this watch fits all the bills for me, and I'm glad that they made it so I can wear it with anything I want, just because I personally love this watch. So I'm now moving on to the dial and movement. So the dial, as I'm sure many of you know out there, this is a chronograph, and that's really what this watch was made to be. They needed it for the Apollo 11 missions and the rest of them, because they needed a good chronograph so they can time their fuel ignitions and things like that. So this watch actually really was an integral part of the missions, and I mean, it did a really good job. This was they actually tested a few watches, and this is the only one to pass all of NASA's tests, and some of those tests included vibration resistance, vacuum resistance, stuff like that. So now coming back to the dial of this watch, it's a standard chronograph dial. You have your running seconds on the left subdial, your hour for the chronograph at 12 o'clock on the subdial, and then at 3 o'clock you have your 30-minute counter for the chronograph. And on the center stock here, you have your minute hand there, hour hand there, and then your chronograph second hand in the middle, which is facing right up at the top right now. And I really love the dial on this watch. It's very contrasting, because you got the bright white, polar white hands, and then contrasting to that black or gray, dark charcoal gray dial, which really makes it extremely legible in almost all lighting conditions. And I guess they also really needed that for the lunar missions, because sometimes they were working in dark, sometimes light, and they just really needed a watch that was very visible. And now going to the visibility, you have loomed indices all around. I really like the indice at 12 o'clock. That is also loomed. It looks pretty unique with the two dots there and then the center line. I really like that. And around now on the bezel here, you can see it as a tachometer bezel, and what you do there is that allows you to see how fast you are going in tandem with the chronograph. So now going to the movement of this watch. So it uses a cam chronograph movement, the modern day version. This is the modern version. But the one that was actually worn on the mission used a column wheel chronograph movement. So the reason they actually switched over is because column wheels are a lot more prone to breaking down, and they are a lot harder to build than a cam chronograph. So in the modern renditions, they have switched over to the cam chronograph. And also with column wheel chronographs, those are more seen on higher end watches such as Patek Philippe nowadays. They all use column wheel chronographs, and actually Rolex does too. I'd say most chronographs out there are now cam, just because it's a little bit more reliable and it's much easier to manufacture. But the higher end companies, they do the column wheel just because, I mean, sometimes it provides a better feel in the pushers, and it kind of is just a technical achievement that they can build it. So now I'm going to move on to a wrist shot. So this watch is extremely comfortable. I really like it. The bracelet is nice and loose. It's actually brushed on the inside all the way around, but it is extremely comfortable. I really like it. I love the size of this watch. Not too big, not too small. It fits my wrist perfectly. I'd say it actually could basically fit anyone's wrist. If you have a big wrist, I think you could do it, and if you have a small wrist, you could do it as well. So yeah, very, very comfortable. The clasp on this watch is basically a it's basically the Seamaster's clasp, but without the diver's extension, so that made it be a little shorter, as you can see here, so when it's closed, it isn't as long. I really like their clasps. I think they do a good job. The buttons work really well on them. It's just a standard pusher. They don't seem to fall off when you're not wanting them to. I think they do a great job on their clasps. High quality. The bracelet's very high quality, solid end link, very good quality. I'd say for the money, it is one of the best watches out there. I'd say I would for sure purchase this piece if I would for sure purchase this piece. So yeah, overall, it's a great watch for the money. This watch costs, depending on where you're buying it from, it's around the $4,000 to $5,000 mark. Really depends on who your dealer is. But yeah, very, very good for the money, I'd say. The quality is definitely there. It's it's probably my favorite Omega that they have right now. Closely up with their actually Globemaster annual calendar. I love that piece, but I'd say this surpasses it. I really love the history, and I'm really into science personally, so I especially love that history of being the first watch to be worn on the moon. So yeah, very, very interesting piece, great history with it. I would for sure recommend buying it. And actually, this being the newest model, one cool thing that it comes with it is when you buy it, it comes with about like a giant display box that is like 2 feet wide. It's a little, some people say it's a little obnoxious, but it's cool. It comes with like an Omega Seamaster medallion. It's basically a larger version of that in there. It comes with like a spring bar tool, and then a NATO strap, and then also an extended NATO strap, but the extended NATO strap is like a Velcro, and then that would be what they actually wear around their space suit. That's what they did. So yeah, going in conclusion, great watch for the money. I'd say if you want to become a serious collector, you're going to need this in your collection, just as it's got a major history. And this is the Hesselite version. I don't think I mentioned that. I'd for sure get that model instead of the so-called Sapphire Sandwich, as this one sticks more to the original. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Remember to subscribe to the channel and watch our other videos. Thank you.